No, you don't, because you just said we didn't spend a dime on police, and you said we spent it on this, and but nothing on safety. You got to give me credit for that.
I gave you credit for that in a public meeting. I gave you credit in a public meeting for that. I gave you a. You know, you want to ignore what I say, but you know, you don't want to listen to what I'm asking for.
I'm going to answer right now.
And you're finding money for every other project.
And I found money for police. I found money for 12 police officers too. Where you said we didn't find any money.
And I said that in public. You go back and check it.
I'm looking at what you said tonight. What'd you say tonight?
You go back and check it. You go back and check that I did thank you.
Get your finger out of my face.
I did thank you.
Now listen. Here's what I'm going to share with you. Okay, because I want to make sure you understand this, because you apparently don't understand this stuff, or else you choose to ignore it. The single largest expense that we have as a city is safety forces. Over 2/3 of every dollar we spend goes to police and fire. So to say we don't commit any money to safety is not accurate. Second, when you said we didn't spend any new dollars, or we didn't come up with any new dollars for police, that's not true either, because we just hired 12 police officers 6 weeks ago. Okay? Now, in addition to that, we came up with the safety service training program so that we can help bring in diversity, because I told you when we hire new police officers next that we're going to have to figure out how to address the diversity problem. We got a program in place. You saw that was publicly listed that we're doing it. So I'm doing what I told you. I'm getting the safety training program in place so that we can hire. I told you the next test for police was going to come up in the fall so that we can hire after the first of the year. I told you that. You said I didn't respond. You know that. I told you that when we met.
You gave me no commitments on it.
Then I told you
none. You gave me no commitment.
I told you there'd be no new hires this year, right? And that the first time we could hire would be after the first of the year.
And you know what? Now, the citizens of this city want action now, not promises
next year. Well, then the citizens
year.
of the city need to come up with the money.
Well, so here's what I'm going to pursue it.
Okay, now here's what I'm doing for you. Okay, we have certification adjustments coming from the auditor. As the year unfolds, we continue to track and monitor the money. It appears that we're going to have some extra dollars that the auditor's going to certify. We got some extra inheritance money from the end of last year that came in this year that wasn't part of the budget. That money is going to be rolled into our carryover money so that we have money to be able to balance the books for next year. If you remember 2 months ago, I said our projections for 2014 is going to be tight. We're $1.5 million off on the early projections. Well, this adjustment on the budget is going to allow us to basically appear. We'll have some extra numbers coming in at the end of this month from the auditor and this finance director tally all. But it looks like that our numbers for 2014 are pretty close to being in right now as we're making adjustments. So at this point in time, our budget looks like it's going to be not only balanced for 13, it looks like we're in a position to balance our budget for 14. Not any new dollars, but on the current structure. That allows me then to say that as we're planning with this recruitment program, as we're the training safety program, as we're posting for police and fire in the fall to test, those things will get certified after the first of the year. Come February, we're going to be announcing my goal, and I'm going to make sure you understand this. It's my goal, not a guarantee, not a commitment, not a promise. It's a goal to hire 12 police officers and 12 firemen after the first of the year, probably in February. Okay? That will take us, right now we're in the mid-50 range, we'll lose a couple on the way. That additional 12 will take us into the lower to mid-160s. Okay? Then as we proceed through that, we look like we should be able to hire another 10 to 12 police officers after the first of the year, which is a year and a half from now, which means by then we should be in the low to 170 range. As I told you, we lost between 75 and 80 police and firemen during the recession over a 4-year period. We're not going to be able to hire 80 police officers in 1 year and police and firemen in 1 year to get up to speed. But we're building back up as the economy and our numbers are recovering. We're on pace right now that by a year and a half, a year and 3/4 from now, we should be in the 170 range, because next year I can get us in the 160s and the following 170s based off of the projections that we have right now. So we're doing everything we can to try to get to those numbers that you're asking for, but it's not magic and it doesn't happen without dollars. But I can tell you this, the park levy is up in November. If that passes, that's going to free up a little over $1 million to go to the general fund. Based on where we are right now with the early projections for 14, if that levy passes, I can guarantee you we'll hire at least 12 police officers in January or February, after the first year. I can guarantee that if the levy passes. And we also have to watch what's going on with the state budget. We know that we're losing a number of Timken employees that are going to be transferring to the Jackson Township facility, Chesapeake employees that are going to transfer to Louisville. So we know we've got to be cautious that we're not out of the woods yet, but we're gradually building up. Okay, I'm looking at roughly a year and a half, that's a year and 6 months, a year and 8 months from now, that we should be in the 170 range on police. But keep in mind, I'm also having to build up the fire department too. So it's not just about rebuilding the police department. I'm going to be hiring a dozen firemen come the first year as well, and then the following year probably building up some of them too, because they went down by 35 firemen. So we're in a position where, and by the way, every single department in the city, every department, every staff, everything we're doing, the street department doesn't have enough people, the law department doesn't have lawyers, every one of those departments is working on building up as we can recover. So we're building this thing up. I told you that it's going to take us time to do this, and I'd be committed to working towards getting towards your number. I told you that when we met. But I didn't give you a time frame. I did. I said,
you did not.
I said we will work towards that.
You gave me no commitments.
Well,
now I'm going to tell
you something.
There's no
guarantees because we're waiting for the state budget.
I've let you talk.
So
I've let you
bottom
talk.
line is we're getting to where you want to get to, but it's going to take us time, and I can get very close to that within a year and a half or so.
All right.
But to say we're not committed,
I want to say
we're not
something.
committed, or
I want to say
money
something
for this is totally wrong.
I want to say something here. We had a meeting with you. We were very clear about what we asked for. I have been at this city council meeting every single week with the exception of the meeting 2 weeks ago. I have continued to bring this subject forward. You have a responsibility to me. You know, I shouldn't have to chase you. If you have all this information, you have a responsibility to me as a citizen to come to me as a member of Group 175 and say, you know what, Bruce, let's get together. You know what, I come down here and if I've rattled your cage, I've rattled your cage because I am speaking for the citizens of this city. I'm not speaking for Bruce Nordman. I'm speaking for Group 175. We have been down here every single week talking about this issue. Now just because all of a sudden you get your feathers ruffled, you're coming to me and saying, don't embarrass me. You know what, coming forward here every single week and having you ignore me. And I mean ignore me when we continue to ask for this thing, and all of a sudden now that your feelings are hurt, you're coming to me and saying, I shouldn't do this. I am representing the citizens of this city. We are asking for 175, and I have it from authoritative sources that I am not going to reveal, that's the number, that's the minimum number that we need to staff this city. And I'm going to fight for it every damn bit that I can. Now, you didn't come to me. I've been here in front of you. You should have come to me at any one of these meetings and said, Bruce, let's sit down and have another meeting. You sit there and watch me and ignore me. What do you want me to do? I want 175 police officers, 177 when you came into office, and we don't have enough officers to staff this city. I know because I talk to police officers who make phone, who are on calls and get called off and are rude to people because they are so stressed in their job and nobody gives a damn. Well, we give a damn and the citizens give a damn.
And we do too. But I've got $10 million less than I had when I started. Okay, so this isn't magic. We just can't make it appear. I've got 35 less firemen than we had too. You know what? We got people knocking on doors every day saying we need more firemen. And oh, by the way, I represent the people of the city as well. And I'm doing what I can to represent all the city, not just those who want police only. There are people who want us to spend money on firemen and open fire stations. There are people who want more people in the health department. There's people who want to make sure that the law department can take care of the legislation that we need to get it done on time. I mean, there's 17, 18 different departments in the city, most of which have an impact on the local government or the general fund. I have to be responsible for all that. And I get that you want more police officers, and we're doing everything we can to do that. But as I mentioned to you, what you're looking for is a safer community. And as we've been here, crime has gone down for 11 of the last 12 months.
Well, you had 5 officers, and I'm telling you, the officers, they're called out and get called off on their calls 2 and 3 times on the way to the first.
We don't have enough. I'll be the first to admit that.
That crime doesn't get reported. It doesn't get reported. Only the crimes that they get to get reported.
That's not true. That is absolutely not true. If your car's stolen, you got to report it. If that's a crime report, but if they're going to a call and they can't get to the call, there's nothing filed. I told you very specifically, we could have 0 police officers and nobody making calls, but crimes are going to happen and they're going to get reported. They have to report it. So it's not about how many people make calls. They can't
report a crime that they can't get to.
They can contact our police department. Anybody can call our police department.
I understand that.
So, but the fact of the matters are this.
But you get your crime on the reports that are filed.
You come down here and you're demanding one issue, one number that you've arbitrarily
pulled out. I'm representing one issue. I didn't get elected here to
And I
serve the
represent all
city.
of them.
I'm here because the citizens have approached me as their issue. I'm carrying this baton for them. I'm speaking for one issue. I'm not running for office. I'm representing this issue, which is an important safety issue.
Exactly.
And it's one of the reasons that Chesapeake was looking for safety.
That's not why they went there. They went there because they needed a 300-acre site of land.
Well, that's
what
one
they
of
needed.
it. But
there's
the rest
no
of it...
300-acre site in the entire city of Canton that would accommodate them. That's what they're looking for. So again, I worked with Chesapeake for over a year on this thing. I know exactly what they were looking for. Did you meet with them? Did you talk to them?
No.
Right. Okay. So great.
But I know what their issues are.
You know because you haven't talked to them. Okay. My point.
But that's an important issue.
It's an important issue for everybody. It's an important issue, and I'm telling you, we are working hard to bring in more police officers. We lost between 35 and 40 police officers during a 4-year period of lost money, $10 million that went away. We're not going to magically just make up that $10 million and bring on the full staff. But we've been building it up. We brought in 12 officers, with 10 officers last year, 12 officers this year. We're going to hire 12 more next year, and we're going to continue building.
We're going to end up at 148. I understand all the numbers.
You're not going to end up at 148.
I'm talking about the end of the year when we have retirements.
You're not going to be at 148.
It's going to be 148
and then
when we have retirements.
And we do that when they retire after the first year. We're hiring 12 more. That'll put us at 160. Exactly what I just told you.
I've been talking about this issue since March.
Right.
Since March.
And where's the dollars between March and now?
I'm asking you. You were in charge of the budget. I'm asking you, and I have asked you and asked you and asked you at these public meetings to prioritize that money.
We do, and the majority, the biggest...
It's not prioritized. It's given to everything else. Every time I come down to a meeting, we pull money out of the general fund. Oh, we found this money in the general fund. We found $175,000. We found $250,000.
We didn't find that money.
But not a nickel for us.
That money was...
You're in charge of the...
Where did we come up with the 12 police officers? We just gave
I understand that. I'm asking for 175. I'm asking for 175, and I ask you to prioritize that. And all you're doing is giving that money to other things and not to the.
So economic development doesn't matter.
You know what?
Economic development doesn't matter.
You got
you know what pays revenue?
You know what the default rate is in that area with that? I mean. Who is going to come to an unsafe city where the citizens are unsafe? I asked you at the meeting. You changed where you live out there, which backs up to North Canton, and you go live down on 12th and Shore, and you tell me there's no crime. I challenge you to do that, and I did it at the meeting.
You just make shit up as you go.
No, I don't. I said it at the meeting.
You're saying that I said there's no crime.
You said crime is down, and I challenged you. I said, you live out here on 56th Street where they can't even keep a car out there because they're busy downtown. And I said to you at that meeting, if you don't think there's any crime, you go down and live on 12th and Shore, and you tell me.
There's no crime? See, you're making stuff up.
You're telling me crime's reduced, and I'm telling you it's not being reported.
It absolutely is down. Crime is absolutely down.
It's not being reported. You can't report a crime if you're running from call to call.
And the 27 members from the Rated R gang that are no longer in business with their racketeering, with all the stuff they were doing, creating hundreds of crimes a year with that group. You're saying crime's not down because those guys are in jail?
I want to let you know that I have had federal agencies contact me because your crime is down because they are asking for our support. You know what? It is not down. It is not down. If you think it's down, go live on 12th and Shore and go down there and start knocking on doors and ask the people down there if they think crime's down. Councilman Greg Hawk just talked about that just at the meeting here.
And
all I'm asking.
I represent the entire city.
I understand
the neighborhood, and maybe.
No, I'm not representing the neighborhood.
Maybe your neighborhood is but crime is down.
No, I'm not representing a neighborhood. I don't speak for Vassar Park. I am speaking for the city. How we got into this, as I originally told you, was that we work in the toughest areas of the city. Shore from 17th to 12th, we work Gibbs from 17th to 12th, we work 19th and Maple all the way up to Gibbs. Those are tough areas. We go knocking on doors. 470 people we've talked to. We go to businesses and we talk to businesses, and businesses tell us they're scared to death. They don't even report holdups because they don't want their insurance rates to go through the ceiling or lose it. So we're talking to citizens who are telling us I mean, we're down in the trenches here. We're not out here living in the suburbs here and talking about no crime. We're going into those neighborhoods and we are talking to people. And that's why I asked you when I was at the meeting, if you don't think there's crime, you trade houses for 2 weeks with somebody down in these tough neighborhoods, and then we'll sit down and talk.
You keep saying I don't think there's crime. I keep telling you.
Will you tell me crime's down?
Crime is down. We went from 10,000 crimes a year down to 6,000 crimes a year. That's or 7,000. That's a very big drop in number of crimes and violent crimes that we're tracking.
And the arrests have gone down because we've got less officers on the street, and the arrest rates have gone down because we have less officers on the street. There's 76 officers in 3 shifts covering this city. And it isn't enough.
And you don't think ShotSpotter is going to be helpful to our community?
You know what? If you had that money to spend, I would rather have it for uniform officers on the street.
I'd rather have our uniform officers actually have the tools
you know what?
to arrest people.
ShotSpotters is going to tell you where it's coming from, but 78% of the crimes and 77% of the crimes of the violent crimes taken out of the repository were done without a shot being fired. Holdups, robberies, breaking and entering, without a shot being fired. So if I was a bad guy, I'd go over on this side of town, shoot up the town, and then tell my buddy on the other side of town, they're all coming over here. The shooting that's going on is not between innocent citizens, it's between gangs that are shooting at each other.
And you know who who do the most crimes in our city? It's gang members who are out there robbing, stealing, doing drug deals, what have you. So if we're catching those guys, we're taking professional criminals off the streets, which reduces crime. That's what you want, is us to make Canton safer, and we're doing that.
I want boots on the street. I want you to prioritize it. I have asked you and asked you and asked you.
No, you didn't ask me. You're demanding that I hire 175 people or else. That's what you're doing. You're not asking. I'm telling you I'm getting there. How do I do it to bring in 35, 40 police officers right now? How do I do that?
You are the chief executive of this city.
That's right. And I'm responsible for the numbers. See, the difference between you and me,
meeting,
I have to be responsible for signing the bills and making sure we balance the books.
And every meeting I come to here, there's meetings for something else other than public safety.
That's right, because we oversee 17, 18 different departments of the city. That's our responsibility.
Say you don't have the money in the general fund, and yet again, you pull it out of the general fund. We found it. We found it.
The money was budgeted for those things. We have to distribute our money to make sure we support all the different divisions of our city. We can't ignore those things. You can ignore those things when you grandstand. I can't do that when I have to be responsible.
Well, you know what? I'm not grandstanding because I'm not running for anything. I'm representing the citizens of this city. And if you think that's grandstanding, you got it all wrong.
I think it's grandstanding on one issue. What I'm telling you is I'm responsible for all
It's an important issue. It's an important
issue.
All
the issues are important. All of them are important. Well,
you know what? If you don't have a safe city, you don't have a city. And this city has got negative figures going, and I fight with everybody outside of this city to tell them what a great city it is. I wasn't raised here. I moved here. And I don't want this city to continue to deteriorate the way it is. We're losing population. The people who can afford to move are getting out of town. And I'll tell you a situation. I live right next door to Ridgewood Castle. Had a lady come over to me who lost her cat. I'm not going to get into feral issue. We need a little levity here. She came to me and she said her husband was hired by Chesapeake. They tried and they had to move right away. So they called Louisville to find a place to rent. No. Zero. Okay? I'm trying to make a point here. She went to Ridgewood Castle, moved in, said, oh my God. She almost got raped when she was doing her laundry, drug activity going on. She said, I can't wait to get out of this city. About 2 months ago, we had a young student from going to Malone College, a young black girl, came here 2 weeks in a row. Said, when I finish my education, I can't wait to get out of here. Now, crime is a perception, okay? It's how the citizens look at it. And the citizens of this city perceive this city as not being a safe city south of 30th. 30th north, whole different issue.
You are dead on. the word that you use is perception. There's a reality of crime, but there's a perception of what crime is as well that don't necessarily match up. The perception is that crime downtown is awful, when in reality the downtown area is a relatively safe area. In the entire county, it's a relatively safe area. There are neighborhoods and pockets that are far worse and actually do have serious issues and crime that is far worse on average than the rest of the city. And so there's a perception that whatever's happening there is happening all over the city, or what's happening in some areas. And there are very bad areas of the city, no question about it. And crime is way too high, and we're trying to do everything we can to bring it down and bring on more police officers, as you're requesting. The real issue here is the perception of what is happening is as much as the reality of what's happening. The reality is crime is going down, but the perception is it's not. And in some areas it's not, and I'll give you that. So part of this is, yes, we've got to change that. We have to change that, and it could be changed the old-fashioned way, which was community policing by putting boots on the ground and letting people see police officers walk around, or it could be done the way we're doing it, which is the intelligence-led policing, where we're using technology and targeting and going after the hardened criminals and getting the worst criminals off the streets because we have limited resources. Or eventually we could potentially do both because we can get more manpower, have boots on the ground, and use intelligence-led policing, which is the ideal situation, which I think we both agree on that. But in the limited resources that we've had over the last several years, we've tried to create a more efficient and effective police department, which has been incredibly effective. We've been more effective on gang activity in the last 3 years than we were in the last 20 years before that, just because of the technology and the type of policing. Those types of things are the repeat offenders, the people that are doing professional crimes on a daily basis. So we have put a dent in crime in many areas. But no, it's not good enough. I'll agree with you. We need more police officers. I agree with you. And I'm doing everything I can to try to bring those numbers up, but I can't do it today or from March to now. I'm giving you our plans in reference to how we're going to do that, affect diversity, affect increasing rates of number of police officers. But I also have to build up my fire department. I have to build up our other departments at the same time. I can't put 100% of resources in one department and ignore everything else. That's the one responsibility I have as the mayor, is to make sure that we're functioning on all fronts, not just one. And I applaud and appreciate your passion. You can see I'm just as passionate, and just because I don't say anything, don't mistake that for not being passionate.
I'm going to say this to you. I want a commitment from you. Conversation doesn't impress me. I want a commitment from you. And if you want to sit down with my committee again, I'll be happy to do it. But I want a definite commitment from you as to how we are going to get to this goal. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay.
Now, you're the chief executive. You handle the budget. You lay it out. You place the funds where they're needed. I want you to tell me, and this is what I've been doing down here every week. You know, I got other things to do too. You know, I don't get paid to do this. This isn't a paid position. I'm doing this because I am a concerned citizen of this city. And that's why I'm doing it. I'm not running for office. I don't want any pay. I don't want headlines. I don't want anything. I just want results. That's all I want.
And I understand that, and as do I. But I also have to be able to do, I can't just go out and spend $10 million and not have money to pay the bill. That's the problem. I have the difference.
All right. Now, I just asked you a question.
I understand it. Here's my answer. And this is what I came over, and when we started with. I told you, we just hired 12. My goal is to hire 12 more after the first of the year when we have the new budget, because we're putting it in the budget. Okay? Then, assuming we don't have any financial catastrophes, which, you know, I can't promise you that everything's going to be perfect and we're going to continue to grow, but the expectations are our budget is very close to being in for 14. And again, if the park levy passes, I can all but guarantee you that we're going to bring on 12 next year. And then within 12 months, which is a year and a half from now, we should be able to bring in the next dozen, which would put us over 170, based on those projections, based on the number of projected retirees plus the increases.
If you believe that.
I believe that, but it is a goal. So
if you believe that.
Yeah.
I don't care how you want to do it. I want to sit down with you, and I would like it in writing. I'm not asking you that it's going to be black and white, but I want from you, and I've been asking for this.
But I couldn't.
And I have a right to get it.
Keep in mind that up until this week or last Friday, we did not get confirmation that our budget, even with an equal budget for 2014 compared to 13, with no changes, that we didn't even have that budget ready yet. But with the auditor's update that he has and the projected certification he's going to do, that's going to put us in a position to have the carryover money we need to all but balance our books for 2014 based off status quo. Okay. Again, if we're able to pass a levy and no other significant things happen, I'm projecting that we're going to be able to hire 12 police and 12 fire. And that's 24 safety forces we're going to be committing to hire after the first of the year, probably February, March range. So that allows us to get our police into the 160 range within less than a year from now. And then within 12 months of that period, we should be able to get into the 170 range based on everything being how we're projecting. I will put that in writing. I will tell you that's our goal, our anticipations, but again, you have to put a little asterisk in there that if something happens, if there's a catastrophe or the state takes money or a company shuts down and takes away 1,000 jobs or something that changes my revenue, then we'll have to adjust. The one thing we have to do is be very flexible on how we address this. But we're getting much, much closer because keep in mind, 6 months ago we were in the 140 range. Now we're in the 150 range, and in 9 months we're going to be in the 160 range. So we're getting there. But I mentioned to you when we met, I said, one, we're not going to be able to do it right away, but we'll put a goal, stepping ourselves to that. And two, I have to make sure that we address diversity in this process, because if we don't, hiring, we went 10 years without any minorities. If I go another 5 years without any minorities, all of a sudden we're going to have a bigger issue than having a police officer on the streets, because now we're going to have a safety forces, police and fire, that do not reflect our community, and then you're going to have a real problem. And if we weren't around 10 years ago when that happened, when Al Sharpton and those guys came in and they had all big, because there was, remember that? With the minority issues on the police department, were you here for that?
I wasn't.
Well, you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. If we hire a bunch of police officers and we don't address the diversity issue in the process, we're going to have a much, much bigger problem than high crime.
Mayor,
because and so I got to worry about all that.
I'm going to comment on that.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're pink, black, polka dot, whatever they are. I want the very best individuals. And I am not buying into a diversity thing. That's your issue. That's not mine. I want the very best officers that we can hire that are going to be professional and do their job. And anybody who is dealing with a professional officer appreciates the fact that they are a professional officer, whether they're black or whether they're Asian or whether they're white. I don't subscribe to that,
well,
okay? So
no,
I don't
fine.
care.
And I
don't care.
Whoever we hire is going to be high quality and be the best out there on the street.
But I don't want somebody moved ahead because he's down here, and because he's down here and you're looking to balance numbers, you're going to hire somebody less able. I'm absolutely against that. Absolutely against
right now, the system is set up that white males, on average, get the bonus points. And so we're already moving whites ahead of the rest of the field because of the bonus structure that's there now. And so the system is imbalanced, and that's why you go 10 years worth of hiring without any diversity, because the way the structure is, it creates an imbalance. What we're trying to do is we're trying to balance the playing field, and then we'll take the best candidates. And so that's basically
the best candidates are not the best candidates for their raw score plus X number of points.
But that's how it is now. That's how it is now.
I read the article, and if they take the course, they get 20 points.
But right now, they're getting courses. If they get to the Stark State before they take the test, they get 20 points for that. If they're ex-military, they get 20 points. There's bonus points for all kinds of stuff. But the average minority for what we're looking at for our city, the average minority is not getting those bonus points. And so they could score a 95 on the test and finish number 72 on the list. That's what's happening, and there's an imbalance in the system. We're trying to change the system to make it a level playing field, and then we're going to go off test scores. And
Life is not a level playing ground.
Well,
ever,
you know what?
ever.
But here's the reality. Okay, you might not care about diversity in our city, but I do, and I can guarantee you.
I care about effective police officers.
But police,
I don't care who they are.
An all-white police department is not going to be effective in our city. It's not. I don't care how good they are.
I challenge you on that.
Well, I can guarantee it's not going to be. And so that being said, as we grow our police department, we're going to make sure that we have a diversified police department that reflects our community.
Well, that's your position, but not mine.
But
we can agree to disagree on that.
But
what I would like from you...
That being said is I have more responsibilities than just I'm hiring 179 police officers. And part of it is representing the 25-30% of our population that are minorities that say they want to be represented in our city as well. And so, that's what I have to do. And so I have to worry about the finances.
That doesn't mean that they're the best. That just means that they want a number.
Well,
I want the best.
Here's what I can tell you.
Best.
We've got a lot of diversity in our police and fire department right now.
Sure we do.
And there's great police officers that are of color and of diversity, and there's women.
I know them.
And we are able to find the best.
All I care is they're blue.
Yeah. Well,
okay? I don't care about anything else.
And I get that. And that's my point, is where you can take one issue and run with it. I cannot do that, and I will not do that. And so I will take your concerns, I will take your criticism, I will take your anger and your frustration and your chanting out to the world what you want. I get that. That's why we're here. But I also want to make sure that I'm not able to focus on one item, one issue for one reason. I have to focus on everything. And we're doing everything we can as we're getting the city to recover. But part of that recovery is economic development dollars that allows us to bring in businesses. We gave incentives to about $750,000 to VXI Global Solutions. They're now somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200 employees. Those employees are paying tax dollars. You know what those tax dollars do? They pay for police and firemen at a far greater rate than that one-time investment. So we have the ability with just that one company to probably pay for about 10 to 15 police officers every year from now on. So that's why we do economic development dollars. When we take money and say we're going to put money into CIC so that we can go out and attract jobs, Medline Industries has 120 employees. They're paying for probably 2 police officers.
My whole point on this is that at 2 city council meetings, we found money in the general fund.
We didn't find money. It was set aside for these things right from the very beginning. When we did our budget in January, those dollars were set aside.
That's not what I get. That's not what my councilman is telling me.
Well, your councilman doesn't know. I'm telling you, it was in the budget. Go back to the January budget, the December budget that we passed, and look for the money that was set aside. The $250,000 was set aside for CIC for economic development purposes. That was done in December, and council voted on it. If your councilman didn't know that, then he needs to learn the budget. The money was there, it was earmarked, and it was set aside for that. As we put our priorities together, we spent 2/3 of our money on police and fire, and then we separated the rest of the dollars to cover those things, other things that we need to do in the city. But economic development is a major part of allowing us to have a long-term revenue stream.
I'm not challenging that. But what I would like for you, and let's just cut to the quick here. I want from you what you are willing to commit and what you are going to propose based on the budget.
I'm going to put it on record right now. Okay, you don't need to write it. Here it is. Martin will put it on his show.
No, I'd like it in writing.
Here it is. You're going to get my word. You're going to get my visual on this, right? You want my word? You're getting it right out of my mouth. You don't have to worry about who said what or who's. My intention with our goal with the budget that's set up right now is we should be able to hire 12 more police officers and 12 more firemen in the first quarter of next year. That will put our police department up around 160. Even including the retirees, and it'll put our fire department in the 150 range. Okay? Keep in mind, both of those got substantially reduced. And then our goal is to, after the first of the following year, which is a year and a half from now, we intend to hire another dozen police officers, which would put us in the 170 range. And depending on how many retires, it could be closer to 175, but over 170. So that's the targeted goal. Based off of the current numbers and projections that we have, based off of everything that we know of as today, that's what our intent is. And we just hired 12 more police officers. We went from the 140s to the 150 range. In 9 months, we'll go to the 160 range. In a year and a half or so from now, we'll be in the 170 range. That's as quickly as I can ramp up my police department to get anywhere close to what you're asking for. But we're doing that because it's going to allow us to have time to build up our revenues as we're coming out of this recession, because we're still $6 million below the pre-recession numbers. As we lost $10 million, we'd be able to gain about $4 million of it back, but we're still $6 million below where we were when you're talking about I had 178 police officers. Well, I can't pay for police officers on today's wages with dollars that are $6 million below 6 years ago's numbers. So we're doing everything we can to do that. And this park levy is going to be very important to not only commit money to our parks department, it'll free up over $1 million in reference to general fund dollars. I guarantee you that if that happens, we'll be able to hit these numbers. So a year and a half from now, we're going to be over 170.
I'm going to take your 160. I'm going to take your 160 number. I'm going to sit down and discuss it with my group and some other people, and I'll let you know.
All right, I appreciate that. But I want to make sure you understand.
It's an open question whether or not your group 175 is going to support the park and recreations levy.
We have not. We gave our position on that to Derek Gordon that we want 175 officers. That's where we're locked in. And
but the mayor
you said you'll have 160 by next year.
By 9-10 months from now, yeah.
So it looks like a
9-10 months
no-go.
from now. That's in the middle of next year.
That's like February, March.
It looks like a no-go for your group 175.
That's not a satisfactory answer. I appreciate what you're doing, but it's not a satisfactory answer from where we sit. But I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, but what I want, and Greg, I know it's not what you're asking for now, but I want to make sure you understand that we're working towards what you're requesting at the available resources that we have, and we're committing this not to you or Group 175, but to the citizens of Canton. Right. That we're going to do everything we can to try to ramp up our police department and our fire department and our health department, and our parks department, and our other offices that matter for the services that the people expect. So we're going to try to make sure that we raise all ships with our rising tide, not just one ship. And it will allow us to, in a little over a year and a half, get very close to what you're saying is an ideal number. It's allowing us to ramp back up.
You're saying 6 to 9 months. Give me a date with the 160, because my going back and telling them 6 to 9 months is 6 to 9 months. Doesn't mean anything.
Let's talk reality here, because I'm not going to sit here and lie to you or make things up or pretend. We're going to be offering a civil service test on both police department and fire departments, and they'll post for that, and the anticipation it's going to happen probably late September, early October, okay? But again, when they post that, it could be late October, it could be the 1st September. There could be a 2 or 3 month range of when they actually get that test done. As soon as they get the test done, there's a grading period. Sometimes these things can be done in 60 days, sometimes it takes 180 days. So when they go through the grading process, in addition to grading the tests, they then have to bring the candidates back in because they give them a physical test. They have to go through, and then if they're going to select somebody, let's say that we make the announcement February 1st that I'm going to hire 12 police officers. Then they got to get the list from the Civil Service Department. If I hire 12, they're going to get, say, 30 names. They got to take those 30 names, they're going to run through all psychological tests, they're going to do a background check, they're going to do all those things that they have to do in the process, and that takes a couple of months. So if you notice, this time around we said we were going to hire people in December, and they didn't get hired until, what, April?
I understand the process. I just ran a job fair for the sheriff and got him 60 applicants, and I understand.
But the sheriff doesn't have civil service, they have to help.
But I understand the process, the minute you snap your fingers.
Right.
But we've been asking for this since March, and here we are.
And you got 12 hired since March.
They were already in a process.
Did I hire 12 since you've been?
Yes.
Okay.
And you go back and check the minutes of the meeting, and you'll find that I gave you a thank you, and you sat right there, and I looked right at you and thank you for the 12 officers.
And I appreciate that, but then today you said we've done nothing, and that
I'm talking about 175. That's where we are.
We haven't hit 175, so you're not satisfied. But to say we've done nothing is completely inaccurate.
I thank you for that.
Yeah.
But we came to you in the meeting with 175 because that's the number that we have been given, and
we shared the budget with you
with good authority.
I remember when you left, you took my budget, and you said you guys were going to review it and get back to me. But you never did.
But you know what? In the meantime,
you haven't got back to me.
In the meantime, you continued to fund other things with no discussion.
We continued to stay in business. I'm not going to stop all other functions of the city because I'm waiting for you to get back to me on the budget request. We put a budget in front of council in December. Council approved that budget. We've been operating off that budget. You knew that the budget didn't have enough money to cover 175 police officers. And you looked at that budget, and the only dollars that was there enough money to cover that much was in fire. And you said, well, we're not going to take it out of fire to give it to police. Remember that conversation?
I didn't ask that.
Right, but my point was there was no other department or no other spending that you could take those types of chunks of money out of to be able to make it work. And you guys took time to review the budget, and you said you were going to get back to me with some thoughts. But you never got back to me. I assume at that point you realized the same thing we have with our finance director, the city auditor, the law director, the chief of staff, the mayor, city council, that there's not enough money to go around. We figured that out. So we're trying to get where we can. In the meantime, as the city is recovering, and we are recovering, and we're moving in the right direction, and we have things that are happening, as that happens, we're going to continue to ramp ourselves up. We didn't lose 80 policemen and firemen in one day. It was a 4-year reduction.
I understand.
And it's going to take us 3 or 4 or 5 years to get
I've got all the
back up.
numbers.
Right. And so here we are looking at this and saying, hey, a year and a half from now, early 2015, we could be at those goals that you're asking us to hit.
So you're saying in September you're going to announce...
We may announce it before then,
test.
but there's going to be a fall test for both police and for fire.
All right.
Okay. The other thing that happened too is the civil service laws have changed in the state of Ohio. Those tests used to be good for 2 full years. Okay. Now they're only good for 1 year. So we're going to be offering a test. They'll go score that test, rank that test, get it ready for us, and we're assuming that probably sometime around January the test will be certified. Okay. When that happens, then we'll make the announcement to start the hiring process because we'll have our annual budget in. We'll already know where everything's going to be. We'll have the end of this year. We'll know what happened with the park levy. We'll be able to evaluate all those things. My goal is to hire 12 people on police and 12 on fire because I can't just hire 24 police and no fire. The fire departments, we got the fire stations that we can't open and ambulances that aren't running, and we could have a whole other group of 175 for the fire department, banging on us as well.
Want me to get one for you?
Please, yeah, but we need that pressure too. And so,
again,
police and fire. But you understand that they both matter. I mean, we can't just go one.
I understand.
And so we're trying to ramp them both up in reference to bringing back our safety forces. And that's why it's not so easy just to say, hey, all my money's going to police and too bad for everybody else. I have to worry about those. But those testing is going to happen. My anticipation and the idea of having the test, I could do the test in October, but if it's certified in December, now I'm at the mercy of a second test happening before the following January. If this test gets certified, let's say January 30th.
Who certifies it?
Well, the test, the civil service and all that. So if they certify it by the end of January, then you're going to have an opportunity that as soon as as soon as it's certified, say January 30th. Well, in February, you can make the announcement to start the hiring process, and then you can start interviewing and start the hiring process. We have the potential ability, and I say potential because it matters about money and the list and who's on it and how we can do this. We have the potential ability to come back the following January then and start this next round of hiring. We don't have to wait until February, March the next year. We can start it in January because we can pull people off that list before it expires and still be in the next calendar year, which gives us a new budget to work off of. So if we do that, we'll be able to get potentially 2 rounds of hiring off this one test that only lasts a year. If the test is certified in December, I'm only going to get 1 year off it because I'm not going to know the next year's budget before I can start hiring again. So
When do you get next year's budget? January?
Well, it depends. What's happening now, and this is kind of the neat part, our finances are getting better. And so 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when this thing really collapsed, in 2009, we were decertified in the middle of the year. And I have to give you the history on this to be able to answer your question, so I apologize. In 2009, the budget was set. The auditor certified a number, and for January, we set a budget, and we're operating. And lo and behold, the economy's going down. The auditor missed the numbers, and he overestimated the numbers by like $3 million. And so in August, he comes to City Council and the mayor, and he says, hey, listen, our numbers are off. We certified this amount. We don't have that money. I have to decertify today, and I have to recertify a number that's $3 million less. Well, now we only have from August, September, October, November, December, we have 5 months now to figure out how to unspend $3 million that we were on pace for spending at the beginning of the year. Okay, that's like worst case scenario. Not only was the money gone, but we found out halfway through the year to make adjustments. So we had 5 months to make those adjustments. That was when this started. So I had 5 months already halfway through the year to figure out how to cut $3 million and balance our books. So we were working on that year's budget halfway through the year. So we got it done. We started the next year, and we were now in a situation where, okay, we start out in a situation where it's very difficult because we don't have enough money, and we have to figure out how to cut another $3 million, but we have 12 months to do it. So we were working on that year. So about halfway through that year, we figured out our year, and we kind of got close to having our year in. And so as we're adjusting, as we're watching the numbers come through, and numbers were still going down, we're still making adjustments, negotiating with the unions, and doing all that stuff. So we were able to get the 2010 in sometime around the third quarter. We finalized 2010. 2009, we didn't finish it till December. 2010, we finished it like in the third quarter. 2011 came, and we actually were able to get 2011 in by March. So we got by 3 months into the year, we had that year done. Okay. Well, then we get into 2012, and in December of 2011, I had my 2012 numbers in. So you see what's happening. We were getting the budget done a few months earlier each year. Last year, which is when we did the 2013 budget, at the end of November, we had our numbers in. When we got our final inheritance check and we were able to balance those books, we knew at that point, and then we sent it to council at the end of November, so in December they voted on it. This year, now we're working on next year's budget. This year, we're probably 30 days away, maybe 45 days away from finalizing our 2014 numbers to be able to say to council, hey, I've got my 2014 budget ready to go. And now we're talking about halfway through this year, so we're 6 months ahead. So instead of being 3 months behind in the same year, we're 6 months ahead of the year starting. And so as we're doing this, each year we're getting further and further down the pike. As soon as I get this number done, and I'm guessing that within the next 30 to 45 days, we'll be able to put a budget together for council for 2014. That'll be a balanced budget. That's the earliest we've been able to do this since I've been mayor in 6 years, just because we've been playing catch up.
When will we be?
Now, well, to come to council in 6 weeks or whenever we feel comfortable that we're ready to come down. But that's we're now 6 months ahead of the year starting instead of 3 months before the year ending. That's a year and a half, a year and 9 months difference. Right. So what'll happen is for 2015, as soon as we get the 2014 numbers done, we're going to start our projections. So in the second half of this year, we're going to be starting our projections on 2015. We literally can be in a situation, particularly if the numbers are still moving in the right direction, we could be in a very good situation after the November election. So we see what's happening with the park issue. After we see the end of the year figures, probably by January or certainly by the first quarter of 2014, we could be literally finishing up our 2015 numbers, so maybe 3 months earlier than that. So that's basically we're in a situation where, and we should be in a situation where we could be projecting 2 years ahead. I mean, realistically, if we want to be able to work our budget, we should be able to say, here's 2013, 2014, 2015. And we've been playing catch up. Now, Masson, for example, they're still trying to figure out how to get through this year because they're in a situation now that we were in 4 years ago.
I understand.
And so we've been able to little by little come out of that and get farther and farther ahead. So I don't know exactly when I'll have my 2015 numbers. I'm speculating now if I can have this done by July or August, that my 2015 numbers could be done by March or April next year for the 2015 year. And if that's happening, then we're going to continue in that cycle, and we're getting stronger and stronger. Now, we're not out of the woods. I mean, if everything was great, I could project for 2 years down the road, and I'd have my budget in place, and we'd be buying all the things we want to buy. But we're getting better and better. And so, when you ask questions of when will you have that, whatever, I can say, well, I expect to have it maybe by April. But yeah, it might not be till July, or it might be in January. So I'm guesstimating based off of this timeline that certainly close to the end of the first quarter next year, we should be very close to having the 2015 numbers projected.
To answer your question, we are still in the process, and we've had some delays for other reasons about the budget analyzation. And within the next 10 days, I will be able to call you and sit down with you because there's been a unforeseen interruption.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and it takes time, and I get that, and so you know, I hadn't ignored you that I wasn't responding. We've still been working on this. I told you we were going to work on diversity. You've seen the newspaper article. We've been, we're moving forward. We got our posted date.
Well, let's not get into the diversity issue. Let's
well,
talk
but my
about the
point
numbers,
is,
right?
but whether you agree or not, I told you I was doing that before we hired you.
I know that. I understand.
Do you remember the conversation when I said?
You had it in the office. I understand.
Right. So this is something I did address. So it's not like something that I didn't tell you about or I didn't pay for.
I'm not talking about the diversity issue. I'm talking about this number on my chest.
I get that, but I told you we weren't getting there.